Thank you for joining us again on the Freedom in California podcast. I'm here with Mariah Gondiero, California lead litigator. We're going to be talking about forgery lawsuits, lifeguards. So Mariah, let's start by asking the big questions. Which is better, Coke or Pepsi?
Oh gosh, I would have to say Pepsi.
I'm a firm Pepsi enthusiast as well. So tell me a little bit about your experience as a litigator. How did you get your start and what brought you to the Freedom Foundation?
Well, I saw an ad for the Freedom Foundation through a conservative underground organization called Blackstone, which is only known to conservative students. So I was like, oh wow, this is awesome. Everything I'm looking for, nonprofit, constitutional law. It's conservative, which was awesome. I worked in a very liberal nonprofit law firm prior to joining the Freedom Foundation, and I was like always interrogated because they knew I was conservative. So I was like, I want to go somewhere where I'm not interrogated all the time.
I know how that feels. Before I came to the Freedom Foundation, when I was still in college, I actually interned in the Democratic caucus in the Washington legislature.
Yeah.
I got in trouble because I had a picture on my Instagram of me holding an assault rifle.
Oh my God.
I know. It was a tragedy, and there was.
Oh my God.
That's true. So tell me a little bit more about these forgery lawsuits in California. How many of them are there, and how did we find these people?
Well, so far we have 5 alleged forgeries. There's, I think, so many more forgeries out there. We just don't know about them. Because oftentimes what happens is public employees don't know that they have a right not to fund the union, and they automatically have money being taken out of their paychecks. And when they hear about the Freedom Foundation and we get involved and we tell them of their rights, they try to leave, and then the union cites to these membership cards that they purportedly signed. And oftentimes they have never even signed the membership card, have never even seen a membership card. And so then that's where we get involved.
Right, and it's interesting that you mentioned the membership cards, because we also send out quite a bit of email to public employees. And just today I was reading through some email that we got back, and one of them said, I love what I'm hearing, I want to opt out, but my union told me that I have to stay in until March of next year because of something I signed, and I don't remember signing anything. I'm just taking their word for it. Is that sort of in line with what we've seen with these forgeries?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, they since the Supreme Court declared that they can no longer take money out of the paychecks, they're relying on membership cards now, because that's the only type of justification they have to, continue collecting money from these public employees. And so they're pressuring them into signing membership cards, or just, forging signatures, which is what we've seen too often.
Right. So Marie Quizambra, that's her name, right? I'm not butchering that.
Maria Quizambra, yes.
Maria Quizambra. So she's one of our forgery cases, and I think one of our most prominent forgery cases. Could you tell me a little bit more about that?
So Maria, she's been taking care of her disabled daughter for, gosh, I think like almost a decade now, I would say. I might be off or even more. And she was, she came to us after the union told her, oh, you can't leave the union, you signed a membership card. And she's like, I don't remember signing anything. I didn't even know, membership was voluntary. And so she kept prodding them to turn over her purported membership card. And after, several requests, they turned over her membership card, and the signature on the card in no way resembled her actual signature. And so that's what prompted us to file the lawsuit.
Gotcha. So has the union given any kind of justification for why, her signature on the card might not match up? Have they tried to explain that away, or what has their response been to this litigation?
I think they actually tried, maybe, or they suggested that it could have been her husband. But the thing is, she's been divorced from her husband for years now, and she was not with her husband at the time that, she signed this membership card.
Right, because typically, when you're dealing with a different private enterprise, if your signature doesn't match what's supposed to be on the dotted line, they don't really have any reason to continue taking money from you. I mean, if a gym can't just write your name down and say you're a member now, take $60 a month from you.
Yeah.
So is that kind of akin to what the union is doing right now? They've just said, well, we think you're a member, so we're going to keep taking money from you.
Yeah, that's exactly what is happening. Like I said, they've had no other justification to, take out dues. The law, no longer requires that employees pay money to the union, and so the only thing that they can, the only way that they can get money is to, pressure people into signing membership cards or forging a signature.
That sounds perfectly fine to me. I don't see it there. So how did we find Maria, or I guess rather, how did Maria find us?
Our stellar canvassing team
yes.
went out and, talked to public employees, and she happened to be one of them. And so the canvassing team explained to her, hey, you have a right not to fund the union. This is how you can opt out. Go to optouttoday.com. And so she did all those steps. And then the union, of course, came back and said, oh, wait, you can't leave because you signed a membership card. So.
Right. And, this is sort of how outreach and legal work together. Is we rarely intend to work together, but quite often, I think we found a couple of plaintiffs for you. There's the Terry Marsh case as well that came from a canvassing team. Zombra came from canvassing this lawsuit that we've been talking about, and I'm sure that there's more that are completely escaping me right now. But
I think like 90% of the cases have come from our canvassing team.
Wow, that is
absolutely.
Number. But one group that did not come from our canvassing team are the San Clemente lifeguards, which actually reached out to us. They came to our generic info at freedomfoundation.com because they had heard about what we do and what we can do, and said, we want to send in some of these resignation forms. We've got 130 lifeguards that want out today. Can you help us? And after a couple of weeks, we ended up getting to the point where we felt very strongly that 100 of the 130 lifeguards had, for one reason or another, were able to opt out when the union tried to claim that all 130 of them would have to stay in. I believe it was for 4 years. Am I right about that?
Yes. Yeah. 4 years since they tried to leave, they would have to stay in, which is absurd.
Right. So what we're talking about here is essentially, the lifeguards, if I'm not mistaken, are one of the largest sections of this bargaining unit. I think there's 1,200 lifeguards that make up this 6,000 person bargaining unit, the California Statewide Law Enforcement Association.
I think there's even more lifeguards.
Really?
Yeah, there has to be.
So
over 2,000, I would say.
Right. So you've been dealing with these lifeguards quite a bit. These other lifeguards that weren't able to get out. We were able to about 100 of them get out of the union, but around, I think, 24, 25 are still stuck.
Yes.
So what kind of challenges have you been facing with this lawsuit?
Well, this lawsuit is really similar to our other lawsuits that we've been talking about, or not the other membership type lawsuits that we've had to deal with, where the union has, pressured employees into signing membership cards, not telling them the conditions of the membership, like they're not going to be able to leave for 4 years if they sign it, which is what happened here. They had no idea that they would not be able to leave for 4 years if they signed the membership card. And also, too many of them were teenagers. They had no idea what their rights were. I mean, when I was a lifeguard, I didn't even know what a collective bargaining agreement was,
Hold on. You are a lifeguard?
Yes, I was. I was a lifeguard. Yeah. So I really, this is very personal to me.
Okay.
Yes.
All making sense now.
Yes, I'm very passionate about this case. But they
Okay.
had no idea what their rights were. They had no idea that the union was enforcing a provision in their collective bargaining agreement, an agreement they had never even seen or didn't even know existed.
One of the things that we've been talking about here are these authorization cards, which the union claims gives them a legal standing to continue deducting dues, even if members, for example, say, I would like to opt out today, the union can come and say, well, this card says we can charge you dues for another year or 2 years. Are the authorization cards for these lifeguards, do they appear to be legit, or have you seen any kind of issues with these cards that might say that they were forged as well?
There's a lot of formation defects. I mean, for one, that the cards don't specifically, say when the employee can leave the union. The terms are not explicit.
Okay.
And also, there was no consideration. One of the hallmark features of a contract is that you get a benefit of the bargain, otherwise known as, consideration. Here, the union took away the lifeguards' right to vote. They don't even get the benefit of what they're paying for.
So what do they get then if they can't vote? Sounds like if you don't have any voting rights, that means you don't have any representation because you don't have a voice. You can't say, well, I don't like that they're doing this, so I'm going to vote somebody out. What do they even get?
I mean, the union hasn't offered up anything that they purportedly receive as a benefit. I mean, usually you get the right to vote. I mean, that's why people join the union, is they want to say in the collective bargaining process. So it is unknown what benefit they have obtained through, but they're still required to pay for 4 more years.
It's shocking to me.
Like a fair deal.
Right. It's shocking to me that more lifeguards haven't tried to opt out. Because if I was paying, hundreds of dollars a year to an organization which said, we actually don't care about your opinion, we're not going to listen to you during, bargaining sessions, I don't know what it is exactly I would be doing in that union. And it sounds like, John Hernandez and the other lifeguards in this case kind of figured that out before I did. But no, I mean, I'm glad they reached out to us because we would never have known about this if they hadn't. This is simply
absolutely
simply the Freedom Foundation's profile, as a national leader in the conversation about workers' rights paying off, where people come to us and say, hey, we know you can do this for us, so can you help us out?
Well, I do know that even us filing this lawsuit, though, it's been able to spread awareness with other lifeguards now. In fact, the lifeguards have informed me, the plaintiffs in the case have informed me that, there's another 100 or so lifeguards that are going to be sending out opt-outs.
Oh, wow.
Because the message is being spread, hey, you don't have to pay money to the union. This is what the union is doing. It's wrong. It's illegal. You can leave your union. And I mean, if any of them had the choice when they signed these cards, they would have never signed the card if they knew that they had a choice not to pay money to the union. And so now that they have the choice and it's known to them, they want to leave.
And that's what these authorization forms really boil down to, isn't it? Is a lot of them were signed before Janus v. AFSCME, before people actually had, the right to say, I don't want to be part of the union, I'm not going to pay you. That's when these forms went out. So most people signing them thought, well, I have to sign it anyway, so I may as well just, not.
Well, you were going to have money taken out of your paycheck, no matter what.
Right.
So it's like, what difference does it make? But another egregious fact about this case is that typically, before the Supreme Court, abolished mandatory agency fees, you were only if you didn't join the union, you were only supposed to pay a reduced fee that only pertained to collective bargaining. Well, in this case, they would have charged the union a fee equal to the full union dues. So that it really wasn't even a choice.
Wow.
They didn't have an option. They were going to be penalized for not joining the union.
That is absolutely horrendous. Let's go back to the Quizombre ruling. Could you tell me a little bit about, the ruling in that case and what the appeal process is going to be?
I'll start with the appeal. We have 30 days to appeal since the date of the judgment, which was a couple weeks ago. We've already appealed it to the Ninth Circuit. So it's already in the Ninth Circuit right now. We lost at the district court because the judge ruled that there was no state action. Mm-hmm. So with a constitutional case, in order to have jurisdiction in federal court, you have to show that there is state action. Basically what that means is you have to show that the government, the state of California, was acting in concert with the unions. And this case presented the clearest, form of state action. The state controller, which is a branch of the state, was literally taking money from Quazambra's paycheck and giving it to the union. They were the one doing the act. And so the fact that they could not find that that would be state action is really absurd and disappointing. I felt like it was just an excuse for them to not have to address the merits of the case and just throw it out.
Right, that confuses me a lot, is how the state could essentially be the middleman here, taking the money and giving it to the union, but then also say that the state is not involved. Am I understanding that right?
Yeah, they're saying that they did not cause the harm, which again is just incorrect, because the harm is the state taking money out of their paychecks without consent, pursuant or according to the union's demands. But they're trying to mischaracterize the harm just to avoid state action. It really is just a really disappointing ruling.
Right, because
disappointing.
What's pretty clear here is that you could not take money out of people's paychecks without the state being the middleman. Unions can't just reach into their pocket and take the money.
Exactly.
Somebody to transfer it, or they'd have to set up like an ACH with their bank, and you'd have to get like a routing number from every single dues payer. So obviously the state is involved here. It's shocking to me that a court would say that they're not.
Yeah, that's just honestly how liberal judges are. If they don't like an issue, they're gonna find a way to rule against that. Or if they don't like you, they reason backwards. They've already reached the conclusion, and then they make up a reason why the conclusion is correct.
Right. So what's next for Quazambra then? Where's this case headed? Because I assume I'm correct in saying that we're not just giving up.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we've already appealed it in the Ninth Circuit, and so we're going to be, rebriefing all the issues in the Ninth Circuit, and hopefully we get a somewhat moderate panel at the Ninth Circuit who will, rule in our favor. This is so cool. One of I think he actually came through opt-out today. He was an SEIU employee. We helped him get out of his union. He said he donated $100, and he said, "Thank you for helping me successfully opt out of my union. Without yours and the Freedom Foundation's help, I'd still be coerced into paying for a service that I am powerless to negotiate with. Your help has sent a clear message to the union that its members still have choices and that all people want to be free. It has also renewed my faith in our democratic system that justice is not completely broken." Aw.
Oh, that's really nice.
I know. For your assistance, I am grateful and wish you and the Freedom Foundation continued success in fighting to give back the freedom to the common person. Aw.
All right, Mariah, thank you for joining me on the Freedom in California podcast. And to all of those watching at home, keep an eye out for our next episode where we will continue to talk about issues that impact government workers in California. Mariah, thank you.
Thanks.